Oh, the button came on very quickly there. Hello, everybody. Today is the 28th, Thursday, the 28th of February, 2019. We're nearly at March already. Our Patricia's here. Flat Earth Dude was around just a minute ago. He's just a pop off. And special guest is Authentic Intent Josh. Hello, Josh. Josh, hot from hospital. Josh? Hello, Josh. Josh, where have you gone? I was just talking to you.
Oh. Yeah, not from the hospital.
Yeah, I thought
downtown Minneapolis.
I thought maybe that you would have left because obviously your videos was a couple of weeks ago, but you're still there.
No, I'm out of there. I left the week of Valentine's Day.
I saw you in a dressing gown, so you're at home, are you?
Yeah, I'm at home, and we're just relaxing and waiting for the warm weather to allegedly show up. So whether that happens or not, I mean, you wonder if they're blotting out the sun and they just kind of screw up, and all of a sudden it's winter all the time.
Yeah, we know they can play around with our weather, can't they? They can do whatever they want.
And we let them do it. We're just kind of hanging out on YouTubes or going to work and watching our favorite sports or dramas. So, hopefully this next year it'll bubble up enough to where people will want to collectively show up in a group together and do activism. And it doesn't have to be aggressive. You could just set up a teaching table of some kind, and go to your favorite lake or park or where people are going to be gathering, and just invite them to come up and talk to you. Start your own public conference outside, because really the only reason why malls and businesses are able to tell you that you can't, quote, solicit inside their buildings is because it's a private building and it's got four walls protecting them from the weather. So it's no different than being outside. It's just that they have the four walls and a rooftop to protect them from the weather. So if that's the card that they want to play, then we'll see how many people have been gathering information over the wintertime about flat Earth and feel that this is one of the most important messages of our generation that needs to be out there.
Yeah, so what, just changing the subject back a little bit off of flat Earth for 2 seconds. What about you then? Like, you obviously got a bit worried then to go into hospital.
Got a bit sick. Why take the vaccine, the flu vaccine, when you can just spray it on? Who knows where I really got the flu, but maybe I got it from being sprayed. Maybe they're spraying the flu vaccine. We really don't know what they're spraying unless you take somebody else's word for it online and find out, that it's barium and aluminum, for example. Nanobots, these little microscopic computerized bots, Morgellons, and so on. So, but, I was really short of breath around the 16th of January.
Right.
And I just felt like something wasn't right, and maybe I should get better care, because I was incredibly short of breath. I couldn't even get up from the bedroom to go to the bathroom or anything without feeling like I had to sit down. I mean, I felt very elderly. No offense to those who are healthy in their 80s, but I did feel very short of breath and end up going to the ER. Yeah.
Josh, for people who don't know, the reason that it's affected you like this is because you've got cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, so the flu will affect me a little bit more so than somebody else, because I constantly have more mucus in my lungs and more fluid anyways. So when something like the flu, which is more of a chest type infection, the fluid built up quite a bit in my lungs, which caused the short of breath. And I couldn't even eat either. And I love to eat, and I'm, not shy to say it. Like, I eat all the time. There's a joke a number of years ago that, it's kind of morbid, right? But, you can make fun of yourself, right? That's why blacks think that they can call themselves racist names and get away with it. But I had said that any woman would love to have cystic fibrosis because it's a great diet. Because I can't gain weight. I cannot gain weight at all. I weigh 125 pounds wet. And, if any females out there wanted to lose weight, here, you can have cystic fibrosis and
Oh,
you'll look anorexic almost all the time. And some people, have better digestive systems than others. And others have better lung functions than weight and vice versa. So you kind of have the two combined for me, where I have the infection severely in my lungs and also in my digestive system, which causes me not to be able to gain weight. So, yeah, and I was in the hospital from the 20th of January until the 11th of February. And my oxygen levels when I first showed up at the ER were 85%. And, they gradually increased. And I had to be on oxygen for the first couple of nights just because they were so concerned about my oxygen levels. And I just had this sense or this feeling like I wasn't as concerned about where I was in my current health situation as they were. And so they were so concerned that the first night that I was there, they had concluded the next day that I should be put into an ICU type floor where I could get more care and divided attention. And I was kind of concerned about their inability to conversate with me about this decision before they made it. I thought we were part of a team, and they just decided on their own that I'd be, moved from this room that I just showed up in, which took me, 8 hours to get into, from getting to the ER until actually getting a room. And so it just took, some patience, I guess, realizing that, these people are doctors and they saw my current situation showing up within the first couple of days, that, hey, we need to take this more seriously and put him in a unit that can have more attention given to him. And nothing happened. I didn't code, which they thought I was going to do.
what's that?
And like, if you're going to code, that means like you're in a situation that you're flatlining,
Oh,
or you could possibly flatline any moment and having some kind of a seizure, or maybe choking, having suffocation of some kind that they can't control. So if I'm in a more controlled environment, they felt like that would be better for me. So so nothing happened. I did the 3-week IV antibiotic regimen that they have me go through because I have a particular bacteria in my lungs called Burkholderia, which seems to be quite prevalent in most people with cystic fibrosis, which is one of the most common genetic diseases in America right now, which affects mostly Caucasians, but we're seeing an increase in other uh, colored people. And, so
lupus is quite a bad one as well, isn't it? If you've heard of that one.
say again?
Lupus is quite a bad one.
Oh, no. Mm-mm. Oh, lupus.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's more in women, though, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah, it's a bit more for women.
yeah. And so, um, I guess my point, just maybe to kind of wrap it up, is, the 3 weeks that you're in the hospital and you aren't able to do a whole lot can really start to make you think about why you're here and what you're doing and your purpose in life. Not that I recommend people get sick or be put in a situation where they, kind of have to be isolated for a number of hours and they kind of can't go anywhere. I would recommend, having some quiet times maybe, and, you know, just meditating on how you can
You've taken
share who you are.
you've had to take it a bit more as a rest, you mean, right now?
Yeah, it was definitely a fast.
Doesn't sound like you could do much more, Josh.
No, not a lot of people I think are able to separate themselves. Life is relentless and it's always calling you, and you have to wake up the next morning to take care of your family and pay your bills.
Has that sort of affected that part for you?
Yeah, I haven't worked since, the end of January, and I haven't worked all this month. So, having gotten out of the hospital in the middle of of this month, and I'm definitely not 100%. And each year or so, I feel like I do kind of take a 5% backwards turn, and it is very difficult for me to get back to what I feel is 100%. But you make the best of it, and you just move on, and you carry on, and you just know that you got to press harder, because not only is my time short, but everybody else's time is short too. And whether that be, new knowledge that you get that changes your life, or, something in the future that is out of our control. So,
Time
which
goes
I'm,
very quickly anyway, doesn't it?
yeah, I know. Can you believe it's almost March already, and there's still quite a bit of snow on the ground, and it doesn't look like there's any slowing down of winter at the moment.
It got quite warm here in the UK. I mean, it's cooled down a little bit now, but we've had sort of it really warmed up. Like, you could take your cardigan off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Well,
we're not talking the Bahamas here. Just
yeah,
it got
right.
air of warmth in the air. Anybody in the UK knows what I mean.
Well, I'll tell you what, once it hits that first 40-degree mark in Minneapolis, I certainly would be hard pressed to go down to Lake Calhoun, because there will be dozens of people running around the lake at 40 degrees with snow on the ground still. But, if it's 40 or 45 and there's still snow on the ground and it's sunny outside, you know, people just have a different outlook on life. But if it's 45 degrees with snow on the ground in, October, people are inside.
Hmm. So you're just taking this as a bit of time off, or you? Because I gather from you that you're quite frustrated that not enough people have woken up. Oh, we were talking about this before you came on.
Well, I think that there there is an idleness of seriousness regarding this topic, because it really opens up a lot of other doors. And by what I mean by that is, it helps you see that, there really are people out there that will lie to us about incredibly massive things. When
Yes.
I had a follow-up doctor's appointment yesterday morning, and I had a conversation with one of my team members, and she had said, because I had conveyed, that there's a lot more to cystic fibrosis than what we're being told in mainstream. And that's just my own, opinion of what I've read, and I have to take what somebody else says, and weigh it between what I see the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation doing, right? So she just kind of felt it insulting that I would kind of point the finger at the medical field and say that they're withholding information that would cause people to become healthy and, cured from whatever ailment that
Well,
is
that's the
affecting
point,
them.
Josh.
Well, that's my point. I mean, I think we all know that. But my point
You've been
was
using
is that
cannabis in salads.
she
Be
was
on the,
insulted.
they should be on the shelves to buy the cannabis leaves to eat. Eat them in your salad.
Right.
There's
And that goes on to, another point that I'll make here in a minute. But she just felt it insulting that I would, point the finger at the medical industry and say that they're withholding information. But I didn't bring up, well, what about cigarettes? What about asbestos, fiberglass?
Josh, what's that music?
What about
You know,
seatbelts?
Gosh, what's that music? You know what they're like, YouTube.
What's that?
Sorry, I was just asking what that music was. You know what they're like on YouTube.
Oh, you can hear it?
Yeah, just for a moment we did it. You know what they're
Okay.
like.
I'll turn it down a bit. Um, so, and I just kind of mentioned, like, well, what about cigarettes? They weren't as forthcoming about their results regarding cigarettes. And people just assume that the people that they see on TV or in these high ranking positions, like a scientist or physician and astronaut, that these people aren't prone to lie. And if we're being lied about where we live, then we're being lied about more land and who made us, where we come from, and like really what our purpose
I
is.
agree with you, Josh.
So, and when I was in the hospital, and it, gives you a lot of time to kind of meditate and think on your own, you kind of start to wonder, how much emphasis should I put on my diet and what I eat and the supplements and the different things that I take in for vitamins, and try to quote cure myself with all these alternative non-FDA approved uh, medical items, right? Call them quote medical, medicinal. Um, Whereas my own thoughts and my own thinking about who I am, what I'm worth, who if I'm worth anything to anybody, feeling positive about who I am, regardless of my situation, can that be a cure? Can my own thoughts cure my body? Really is kind of and then what is that foundation? Where is that energy coming from that would give you the ability to quote heal yourself? And what are you putting all of your thoughts into? Is it being filtered from something, or do you believe that you can cure yourself without having any alternative source, whether it be spiritual or medicinal? So that's kind of what I'm battling with right now. So I've had some time to kind of think and be alone and use that to kind of help fire me up for this year, when I think we're going to find out who is taking this mind screw of flat Earth and um, to the next level.
Did you say before we came on air that you felt that when they were making decisions, that they actually made some decisions without really asking you? And you said because you said, I thought we were a team. So what was that about?
Well, a couple of situations were kind of brought up where they made some decisions behind my back, and one of those decisions was to move me from the first room that I was in into an ICU situation. And I felt that there was a lot of negativity around me, and I was kind of disturbed by all the, I don't know, for any lack of a
Is
better
that
term, in my worldview, is
ill,
kind of
Josh?
demonic, you know?
Oh,
What's that?
it wasn't because you were quite ill and they noticed it. You felt that it was demonic.
No, well, I thought about why they were thinking what they thought, because they probably seen many 30-year-olds with cystic fibrosis in my same situation. So they were probably thinking that the best situation for him to be in would be in a floor that would have more, nurses and the ability to, if he did have something happen, um, be able to take care of him. For me, I didn't think it was as serious as they thought it was. That's where I'm coming from. So I felt like there were like three or four different people around me saying that we're concerned about your lack of oxygen in your lungs, that you need to be moved. And that conversation wasn't ever really brought up to me until after the fact, that they had decided to move me. And yeah, I mean, from my worldview, my own personal opinion about, how I felt, I just felt like that energy was quite demonic because they thought I was going to die. I
Is
mean,
it
what other conclusion
also
can I come to there?
is it also this, Josh? I know at any time, I suppose, you can get up and walk out of the hospital, but when you're in the hospital, there's someone else making decisions over you. Is that what it is as well?
No, I don't have a, I didn't sign my rights over to anybody or anything like that. I'm competent and aware. Well, I'm a flat earther, right? So how competent am I, huh? So I just felt that they were kind of going over my head on these decisions, and it's their own. They had brought up a funny. They had said, well, what if you code and you die, and we could have done something, and then like your family sues us. Like they literally said that, like somebody's
No.
gonna sue. Well, I don't know if you've heard of this documentary, and you can take it for what it's worth, but it's called Bleed Out. Check it out. I don't know where it's on. I think I saw it on Amazon or something like that. But it's called Bleed Out, and he has something happen to his mom where I think she like re-breaks her hip or something like that, and she goes in for surgery, and like something else happens where she ends up dying. And he is trying to sue the hospital, knowing that she was on this heart medication, that thins the blood. And it says on the prescription that if you are going to do surgery, you need to wait 7 to 10 days before you do surgery. Well, off of the medication. Well, the doctor knew that, and they worked on his mom, I think within 48 hours of her, the surgery for her hip. And then she ends up bleeding out. It's like, well, of course, she's on blood thinners,
Oh
and you're
dear.
supposed to wait this amount of time, right? And the doctor knew that, and they tried to sue the hospital and the doctor, and it's very interesting to say the least. So I would recommend you guys watch the documentary Bleed Out. It makes it very difficult to have the authority over doctors in a hospital because they will trump your decision and they will trump most people's decisions. Um, and if a decision that they make ends up hurting somebody extensively, like they die, it is very difficult to sue a hospital nowadays. They have a lot of protection, and they have their own like little handshake club. For example, doctors won't testify or do not have to testify against another doctor. So if you have two doctors working together, or you have one doctor here that is getting sued, and you have consultation with another doctor, seeing that yeah, he was probably in the wrong here, and you say to that doctor, okay, will you testify and just give your opinion and say, I looked over his decisions and I thought that it was kind of dumb for him to do surgery on somebody who was on these blood thinners, and didn't wait the 7 to 10 weeks. Because I mean, yeah, it's probably painful to have a broken hip and everything, but it's better than bleeding out during surgery. So you might as well wait a week. Is that okay, ma'am? Sure. Like have that honest discussion. But if that doctor, if you ask that doctor to testify against the malpractice doctor, he doesn't have to, and most likely he won't, because they're all part of a little club, really, when it gets down to it. And you'll see that in this documentary. So I mean, take the documentary for what it's worth. We just had one come out in the flat Earth community, so people can look at this Bleed Out documentary and say, well, that guy's probably a Jew and this, that, and the other. So. Um, but I thought
Yeah.
it was an interesting um, thing to watch, personally.
You mean they look after themselves?
Yes, they do. And that's something that these people that the flat earthers are going against do themselves. These secret societies that people say allegedly run the world, they all look out for each other. How many flat earthers are looking out for other flat earthers, right? Or how many flat earthers are calling each other names, pointing fingers, So how much stability is really in this non-movable plane that we live on.
Seems to be a lot of that in this world. That lot of what you're talking about. People haven't learnt still to be nice to each other yet. Have they, as you've noticed? So, Josh, you're obviously not been out on the streets then, have you?
No, it's cold out here. I have. I've been just sitting back, watching, you know, observing, taking everything in. Um, you know, if you do activism or you do talk to the public face to face, you can use some of the old stuff that you were using before, but you have to kind of catch up to everybody else still too. You know, if people want to say like, you know, being on a different frequency or a different you're on a different wavelength, man, then you have to keep up with that wavelength. You can't be in 2018, you know? So we have to be caught up in what is happening in 2019 with the public so that we're able to relate to them and not always talk about the Bible, flat earth, the law or not, and all these other things that really just, you know, divide people. I feel very confident that people who, you know, look into flat earth will determine whether it's an important issue or not, and then they move on. And maybe they'll share it with other people, but at least they know and they have looked into it. And there's going to be a lot of people, I think, in 2019 that a lot of people in this community are going to talk to, and the public is still not going to have heard of flat earth. And I was in a chat room the other day and I saw somebody in the live chat say, that's a ridiculous statement. Everybody's heard about flat earth. If you're not on social media, how do you not hear about flat earth? And it's like, there are people out there who don't know how to properly boil water and cook rice. You know, I mean, you don't know how to cook rice in a pot. I mean, so there's plenty of people out there that have not heard about flat earth. And even if they have heard about flat earth, have they really listened and sat down with a critical mind at 25 or 35 years old and thought, okay, this explanation for boats going over the horizon makes more sense than what they're telling me. Because if I'm at 25 miles and I can't see a curvature over a ball, then how is it that I can see it with a boat going over the horizon? So, you know, some of these things just have to be put in a person's mind and they have to think about them. And we have to be the ones to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying before we came on. Maybe not everybody will wake up, but it's got to start somewhere. Maybe with the ones that help start this all off to change, hopefully, as time goes on, people, so that they understand that the truth. Because they definitely sort of put us in the corner on YouTube, for sure.
Yeah, they've certainly put us in a little box and we have our little clique and, you know, but you know, really, so does everybody else. I mean, you go over to the Mandela Effect channels and you listen to what they have to say. You go over to the Blue Chicken channels. You know, the Blue Chicken channels are the Blue Avians over Antarctica and your David Wilcox. You go over to the NASA people and you hear what they have to say. And, you know, it is good to get a good idea of where these other conspiratorial ideas are at. But unless they're a flat earther, there's no point in really me listening to you much.
Half the plot, aren't they?
They're missing a lot. I mean, think about it. All your movies you've ever watched in your entire lifetime, I don't care how old you are all based on you living on a ball in outer space. There are no movies out there right now that are about just plain old flat Earth. Like, we live on a flat plane, and here it is, and here's the movie played out in front of you.
Yeah, what are they scared of?
Right? Why is this idea so infectious? Well, because it flips everything upside down, and then here's your 150 to 200 year reset, right? When you get a group of people that are irritated enough where they just start opening their mouth against the establishment and see what happens. Maybe everybody won't wake up. Maybe we'll all be just go back to the way it was 20 years ago. Or maybe something does come up from this. But eventually it's going to get to a point, and I've said this before, where somebody in a very authoritative position either says that the earth is flat and that all the ideas about flat earth, here's this and here's that, here's what's true, here's what isn't true about flat earth, or the establishment says, okay, enough with this flat earth stuff. Anybody who talks about flat earth is going to be fined or jailed. Why are we going to be fined or jailed? And then they'll give their explanation, and then they'll have order out of chaos type of thing. So it's going to be one of those two things. But we still, as a community or whatever, commonwealth, we still have to do our part. And if your part is making YouTube videos, running 24-hour live chats, or going out to the street and doing activism, then do that, but don't let it change your life if you don't want it to, and it won't. So, but I do think that our emphasis on the topic will encourage the thought in other people's minds, because I think there will be more weight to it, instead of it just being in passing, hey, yeah, the earth is flat, and yelling it out your window. I think that won't grow too big of a tree, but it might grow like a grain of grass or something like that.
Great when you go out to restaurants and you hear people talking about it freely. That would be great.
All right, exactly. Like if you're going to do a live Google Hangout, go to your local coffee shop and talk about it, right? Or,
That's what
have a...
That's what you do.
Yeah. So, and just because everybody else gets to talk about their sports, people get to talk about politics, right? I mean, people won't talk about politics in public, but then they'll have it on the screen inside of, some restaurant with the caption on and the sound off, right? So it's just a funny world on how over a period of time people have been socially engineered to talk about certain topics in public. And I think a lot of people are starting to, I don't know, I say a lot of people, but maybe, a good amount of people are starting to understand that when you do go down the flat earth bunny trail, it does reveal that people above us are lying to us. And talking about the people above us that are lying to us is intimidating, because people are afraid of jail. People are afraid of being intimidated, getting pulled over for, busted headlight, right? And people's hearts are jumping out of the windshield when the cherries come on from the police officer behind them. And it's really something as minor as, hey, you got a headlight out. But people are like, oh my God, I'm getting pulled over. Oh, I need to do my rights. You don't have authority to talk to me. And the cop is like, I'm just trying to let you know that your headlight's out. So, have a nice day. And then the cop leaves, and the people in the car are like, yeah, you see, I told him my rights. My rights were this and that. And it's like, why don't you just talk to the cop like he's a human being, and then go along those lines later if you have to? But people blow things so much out of proportion in this truth community that it kind of gets to be unbearable. And I'm kind of glad, I guess, that I, just kind of stepped away from that for, a while. Because I mean, really, I saw that like in a one of these like I know my rights videos when I'm driving. The guy was just like, the cop was just like, something's totally minor, like totally a warning, and he's just like, I'm just gonna give you a warning, dude.
Basically, they don't want anybody to trust anybody else, so it's what they're doing is working, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, just the truthers. I think a lot of your normies out there have a lot more peace in their mind because they're not so damn paranoid. I mean, some of these truthers get pulled over by police officers. It's like they run through their whole like I have rights thing, and it's like, okay, dude, you just take that off your rearview mirror. You're not allowed to have things hanging on your rearview mirror. So,
Got to do things peacefully, haven't we?
What's that?
Got to do things peacefully as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't. I know that there might be, a group of people, and we've talked about this in some of the activist conversations where, getting a big group of people that you don't really know the people that you don't know. So you don't know what they're capable of doing.
Hmm.
I mean,
So
so
yeah, I was talking before we came on that you're just feeling quite frustrated about things. You think the time is now, and now isn't quite happening, is it? Is it?
well, I think now is always, it's like that Van Halen song, Right Now. It's always right now. It should always be at this moment. I think of
Yeah.
more of
It's
us.
great being here with you, Josh.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice to be here with you and everybody else who's listening later. And just being in the moment that brought you to that point, because you do have to make plans. I mean, you have to be accountable to other people. Maybe you have a family, a wife, or a husband, or something like that. But what are some real important things for you? Because I have the opinion that you're not going to be holding anybody's hand after you die. I mean, I think it's just going to be you and our creator, and whatever that looks like after that, I don't know. But you're not going to be able to take any of this with you when you die, and you're not going to be able to hold anybody's hand when we're judged. And that's just my opinion. So we have to do what we can to take other people with us to a place that we feel is better than the place that we're at right now. And we'll all be judged by what we believe and what we don't believe, and how we treat other people. And so, if flat Earth is your thing, and you might have a different diet or a different belief than me or the person next to you, that's fine. I mean, share flat Earth. I mean, I don't see why flat Earth can't be incorporated in with mud floods and vaccines and everything else, because really that's just more deceptions. Somebody could say, well, there's no proof for mud floods, but there's a lot of evidence for it. And there seems to be a lot of evidence to show that we don't know what the heck is going on before the 1800s. And we shouldn't really take anything that the history books have told us verbatim, like gospel.
Yes, I'm there with you, Josh.
And so, if you want to take it as gospel, literally, like the Bible is just as old as a book as most of our history books are, choose which book you want to believe. And if you still think the earth is flat and you want to talk about it, go for it. I'm not going to, because at least you're talking about flat earth, and these people who want to be all up in arms about Behind the Curve on Netflix and not giving us a very good light, then what are you so worried about? I mean, why are you taking it as a personal attack? Flat Earth is being talked about. You think that you can do better about conveying the message for Flat Earth? Then make a documentary talking about Flat Earth then. Go out to the street and talk to people about Flat Earth and videotape it. Make a YouTube video about debunking the globe and conveying it to your friends, and give us the link. Send us the link. All you people who complain about Behind the Curve being on Netflix, make your own documentary. I mean, otherwise, shut your mouth. That's just me. Do something about it. If you want something done right, do it yourself, is most Americans' idea. That's why the American dream is here. Is if you want something done right, you go out and you make the best of it, and you turn something from nothing into something. And then, that's why people allegedly came to America, right? Now, what's the next America going to be like? What's the next utopia going to be like? Um, I don't know, but maybe we'll have to find it. And however much trust
It's a bit
you want
weird,
to
though,
put
isn't
in.
it? Because,
What's that?
do you remember the film Chitty Bang Bang, when the children are being come to this and there's all the sweeties in there, and basically it's a cell. So it's like people are being saying, "Oh, look at this wonderful," but really it's a bit like that glasses thing in the film, isn't it? If you put those glasses on, it's not about freedom; it's about something else they're talking about.
Yeah, it really is. It's very alluring. It's kind of like the sirens at the edge of the coastlines, right? That call out to the sailors, and the sailors end up getting too close and they get lured in, and it's kind of like a black widow, just kind of luring you to your lair where everything does look nice, but it all comes at a price. And far be it for somebody to gain the whole world yet lose their soul. So if that's where, some of these people here, like our celebrities and our politicians, they want to be at, then we outside here in whatever the truth community can be called, needs to do something about it. And maybe we need to start our own little community and whatnot. But, that has to do with a lot of lawyers and a lot of red tape. And the only way to do that is to explore new land and find something else out there that hasn't been claimed by the queen, right?
Also, flat Earth isn't just about the map or the size we are. It's about everything, isn't it? To me, flat Earth covers everything.
Covers your vaccines that you're allegedly getting sprayed with, you know. It really covers. I watch. So I watch. um, in this community, I hate to say it, but I watch a lot more TV and sports than I'd hate to admit. But when you do watch TV, you start to kind of feel like everything is an act. Like everybody literally on TV are actors. And if you go into it with that mindset, I'm not kidding. Like just other than the fans and the in the crowd, right? Although some fans, I'm sure, are actors. They're there to shill out for a particular group or a band or something like that. It's like being new to comedy, right? And you have your comedy skit and you invite your 4 or 5 friends to go along with you, and they're the only 4 or 5 that are hooting and hollering you on. Everybody else is just kind of hanging out. But we as we continue to venture forward.
Always look at things in a different light, don't you, Josh?
Well, I try,
Now,
I always try to bring my own perspective in, but if you look at everything that you see on TV as being played out in a script right in front of you, you kind of start to have the veil be lifted a little bit more, and you start to see that there's a lot of people above us on TV and politics and powerful situations that they all know that it's a script, and they're just getting one up on us all, and they're laughing behind closed doors. And how does yeah,
politics.
all the tricks, everything's a dead man's trick, so um now, I mean, and speaking of that, I guess they're saying that there's a second shooter in the JFK assassination. So I don't know if y'all saw that, but their mainstream media is now saying that there's a second shooter with the JFK assassination. So now that mainstream media is saying it, then it's true. So now people can believe it. But you see how long things have to go before they start to confess on themselves and tell on themselves? I mean, that's like 50 some years, right? 60 years since the JFK assassination. And now they're saying that the moon is in Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes.
What is that about? Like, I mean, they're able to say these things because their lie has been established. And now they can kind of like start to leak out ideas about flat Earth. Because that's what I said last year, right? I was saying that to people. Like, the moon is within it's much closer than they tell us, and now it's within our atmosphere. So what the heck is our atmosphere then, right? You're going to have to shrink those numbers down. And isn't it funny how science is able to change things, and it's only authoritative when the Church of Science says so? But, when crazy people on YouTube start talking about these things that aren't verified by mainstream, then, you get labeled as something.
Yeah, we get labelled as crazy, but they want us to think that they are we're travelling about Mach 80 in 3 different directions around the universe, never hitting anything, and everything just stays in place and all that crap. Oh, anti-clockwise with the moon, 1,000 miles an hour. It's ridiculous.
So on and so on. Yeah, it really is. And another thing that's
when you realise that we're not crazy.
No, just more aware, really is what that would be, is more open to change, if you will. Maybe there are a lot more people who are unwilling to change and realize the consequences of going along with that. I mean, how many people do you think would be out there who would fight against flat Earth just so that they could keep what they have, whether that be a mistress or laundering money through their company or something like that, like their own personal hidden secret skeletons in their closets would be totally uprooted if we as a small group, right, David versus Goliath type of thing, we're able to rise up. And that's why I think a human reset is more plausible, because the people who are in power are too powerful.
We're on top of the opposites, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all right. I mean, there's all these other characters and there's all these other plot lines to keep all these other people busy and focused on their own personal little conspiracies and dramas. People want to say that there's drama in Flat Earth. There's a lot of drama in a lot of these other communities, particularly politics. So as much as people want to, say, well, we shouldn't have all this drama in Flat Earth, it's going to give Flat Earth a bad name. Well, go to CNN or Fox News and type in Donald Trump, or type in court case. You have all of these different dramas elsewhere that people are focused on and find themselves to be important in their life. And it is hard to incorporate Flat Earth into that, because it's not important to them. And if it's not important to them, then you have to move on to somebody else and find somebody else where it is important.
We can hear your music.
Oh, okay. So I think that we shouldn't worry so much about having, quote, drama or anything like that in this community, whether you agree with the documentary that came out recently or not. What are you doing? And if you want to change things in this particular community, if you really feel like Flat Earth is the end all to be all, the bee's knees topic of that trumps everything, then come up with your own creative way of sharing it then. Or come out to the lake with me this summer.
Josh, we can hear your music.
I'm trying to. All right, I'll just shut it off. I can't believe you can hear that. It's not even.
Yeah, I actually don't mind, but it's just, you know what YouTube's like.
Oh, I know. I did a live stream with that music in the background playing much louder, where it was probably able to pick it up. And I got like 9 or 10 copyright strikes on the video.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I mean, if 9 or 10 different artists want to claim it and get like 0.7 of a penny every time somebody views the video, that's fine. I don't care if my videos are monetized. I don't monetize them. The only time that they do get monetized is if they're over a year. So I'll monetize videos that I've done that are over a year old, or if there's copyrighted material that's playing on them, like music or something, is the only time that they get monetized. So. But I haven't gotten my YouTube. I haven't gotten any like serious strikes, 3-month strikes, no new channel. So I must be doing okay in their eyes. I must not be that much of a threat, or maybe I'm just not making up enough stuff, right? Oh, YouTube shut my channel down. I've got to make a new one. Really?
Have you been doing much on your channel lately, though, Josh?
I just shared the times that I was in the hospital. Some people were kind of concerned about what I was up to, and how I was doing and felt that I should do a video blog, about the times over the winter time, because I do have a particular niche that I don't feel as comfortable sharing online. I mean, I can do live streams and I could make videos about flat Earth, but for me, talking to the public and being out face to face with people seems to be more my calling, if you want to call it that. So it is difficult for me to live in a climate where, 6 months out of the year, it's cold enough to not be able to venture outside for very long and have conversations. So
How cold does it get with
I
you then, Josh?
say again.
How cold does it get with you in the winter?
Well, right now it's 0 degrees.
Ew, it's a
So
little bit warmer here than that.
yeah, um, let's see, it's -5 Celsius,
Right.
and then it'll be -16 on Monday.
Ooh.
Yep.
Well, we're a little bit warmer than you, I have to say.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
not
don't
anything we like to boast about, but we
cold.
do like boasting about how cold it gets in Minnesota.
Yeah, we never think of America getting cold.
Yeah, what do you think about the idea of it being cold all the time? Like, how they're geoengineering the sun, right? What if they were to, I don't know, do it so much so that I don't think that they wouldn't know that they were going to blot out the sun, but let's just say they didn't know and it happens. Do you think that if there was all year round cold weather and rarely ever any warm weather, do you think that people would say something then?
I think that we were talking about that again before we came live about basically it's a bit like, we sort of don't get winters the same. I mean, I know you've got a cold spell right now, but a lot of us don't get these cold winters or whatever like we used to, and it's all sort of like winters like summer. That's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like really warm, like 95 and sunny consistently. I'm saying, what if this bioengineering idea, which is, obviously publicized, I mean, it is in mainstream, they really are trying to blot out the sun somehow because of their idea of global warming. So, what if in June it was regularly 45 or 50 degrees, and then 2 or 3 years later, it's like 30 degrees, so like within 5 years, right? So by 2025, what if the average temperature in June is like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be like what, 11 degrees Celsius or something like that? So,
Yeah, because they've geoengineered it.
yeah. Hmm.
That's our worry, though, isn't it? What they're doing, because what they're telling the public, and the public believe it, and what's really going on. That's the worry, isn't it?
Yeah, it's double speak. It's kind of speaking out one side of your mouth and really meaning something completely different on the other. So, and I think that people are, just kind of content at what they're doing, where they're at right now. I saw a title of a video last weekend talking about exposing NASA, and NASA's going to take a big hit after this video. They're going down, kind of like this puff your chest out. We're going to take down NASA single-handedly. Well, if you want to take down NASA, all of the money that they get is from taxes. So why don't you stop giving the country your taxes in April? How many flat earthers are going to pay their taxes this year? I mean, you don't have to say, you don't have to raise your hand, but let's be real here. You want to complain about them getting 55, 60 million dollars. I mean, they could get $100 million a day. Okay. You're still going to pay your taxes. So you're just paying for the complaint that you can continue to do. That's like giving somebody $100, telling them to punch you in the throat. You give them $100, they punch you in the throat, and then complaining about it, that they punched you in the throat. Like, well, you're giving them the money to do what you're complaining about. So how do you stop the leak? Well, you stop giving them water, right? That's how you stop the leak, is you stop giving the faucet water, or you fix the problem, right? So how are we gonna fix the problem? How's it gonna happen?
More people need to wake up.
They do. And then that means more people need to stop paying taxes. I mean, that's just what it's gonna come back to, you know? That's just like the people who talk about going on exploration, right? There's a particular channel out there that just keeps on talking about exploring. Well, why don't you knit up all the t-shirts that you're selling, turning it into a sale, buy a yacht, and go down to Antarctica yourself? Because that's the only way you're going to be able to fund an Antarctic trip. The reason why I say that is because it's been over 40 years since America has bought a newer icebreaker for the U.S. Coast Guard, and that just recently happened. So Google News, U.S. Coast Guard icebreaker ship or something like that. And you'll see that these icebreaker ships that the alleged U.S. Coast Guard is supposed to have, which I think the Navy has more, and which is kind of funny because the Navy owns, if I'm not mistaken, most, if not all, of the space projects, or they're part of. So the Navy is part of your space projects, like, you know, in your NASA and space exploration. So the Navy is the main part. Why is that? Well, because it's water. Because space is water. That's why the Navy is in control of most of it. So I think the Navy has more icebreaker ships than they're just letting us in on. But the U.S. Coast Guard is making a big deal out of them getting a $700 million icebreaker ship. So if anybody wants to talk about going on exploration to Antarctica, you need to get, let's even just say, just for argument's sake, a $500 million icebreaker ship. So where's your $500 million coming from for a ship that's going to be able to break through 20 feet of ice? And I'm not hearing anybody talk about that in exploration. So those are your two things that I'm not hearing anybody talk about in Flat Earth. Are paying your taxes to continue to provide for these entities that you're complaining about lying to us about where we live. And if you really want to do exploration, where is this ship going to come from? Where is the ship going to come in? You know, people talk about, my ship is coming in. Well, it better be $700 million first.
Everything's all to do with money, isn't it?
And really, people are willing to spend it. You know, people are willing to offer people money for things that they feel encouraged by other people doing, or they believe in a particular project or idea. So I guess we'll find out, you know, where people are at this year and where people want to put their time and their effort into, and that's money. So.
Well, we were hoping, weren't we, with Flat Earth, the whole thing, that maybe some of the people would start being nice to each other. Start
Well, what do
caring.
you think is the problem?
I don't know, because, you know, I think you're either sensitive and empathic or you're not.
Do you think more people are more sensitive, or is it just that they're more,
Narcissistic.
Paranoid about trusting other people?
Yeah, and they're much more narcissistic.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
Because that's what they've been bred like, really. Now, that's what we have. But luckily for us, we didn't stay in the program. Luckily, the program doesn't work on us. Hey, Marilyn Spirit Levels in the chat room, Josh. You know her, don't you?
Oh, hey. Yeah, I've been having problems with YouTube. It just shows up as a blank screen, so I haven't been on the watch page this whole time.
Yeah, she just turned up. So what's going to be happening to you now then, Josh?
Well, we'll get back to work in March, so we'll work part-time. And and get some income that way, and then we'll just put the feelers out, find out which and
Are you,
where I want to
are
go
you
and do some activism for this spring and just get warmed up and just be who I am, not try to get caught up in the drama and everything, but just try to be a good example that encourages other people to talk about this in their own way. You know, you don't have to go out on the street and talk to strangers and film it. I do it because I need a camera to protect myself. It's good educational viewing for people who want to talk about flat Earth.
recording it? It's proof.
Yeah, it's to make sure that nobody can say that I did or didn't do something. You know, it holds me accountable. Because I think when you're on camera, it holds everybody accountable to what they say and they do. And if you're honest, I think a lot of honesty can be conveyed through a camera lens because you're catching a person, right there on the spot and having a conversation with somebody and not, being egregious and offensive and just saying it to say it. I mean, I could talk about flat Earth all day, but if I'm not conveying the message in a manner that I really want these people to understand and comprehend this, then I'm just a banging gong, making loud music and not being very rhythmic. And I think we can see that in people all over, in our life. That's, that's how we are able to formulate who we want to be friends with or not, right? I mean, we do judge. So, there's nothing wrong with judging. But, if you think that you can do better, if you're going to critique somebody for doing something, give two positives and a negative. Uh, convey two positives to somebody and then give them a critique. But don't just throw out three negatives and tell people, that they're doing this, that, and the other wrong, and not give them any kind of encouragement on how to do better unless you want to do better.
Yeah. But yeah, we all do, don't we? We all want to do better. But anyway, when you get into all this, we're thinking differently now, aren't we? Makes you think differently.
I know, right? Fake history now, mud floods, this idea of the giants. Um, I went through the whole giant phase like, 9 or 10 years ago when I was doing the whole Kent Hovind thing and Dr. Dino and talking about like young Earth over evolution and how he said he was able to show in the Bible that the Bible is historically accurate because of the ages of the people that were in there and how it showed that, when a person was born and a person died, that, we allegedly walked with dinosaurs very early in creation. And so now, people are saying that, giants aren't real because, people who are 8 feet tall now have health problems. And the only way to have giants is to have this particular environment, and somehow we lost that environment, so giants aren't able to live anymore. And whether there's giants or not, we're all 6.5 feet tall or 6 feet tall now. What does that change? It's just more knowledge, which is great for some. Most people here in the truth community love to hear new things. But how long do you stay on that particular topic until you move on to something else? That can be just as productive, and then go out and share all that. Like, are people going to take offense for me sharing fake history and mud flood ideas to the public when you're just supposed to be talking about flat Earth? Because I saw a lot of that. Oh, you're talking about mud floods. You're not allowed to put mud floods, fake history, and giants in with flat Earth. It's like, who are you to say what I can and can't talk about YouTube? Like, I mean, you got these flat earthers who are telling other flat earthers what they can and can't talk about on their own channel. And then they go on their channel and talk about, what they want to talk about and say that this is the only thing that you're able to talk about. Okay, Mormonism, okay, Catholicism. So it just gets to be, I mean, hey, we were talking about this right before. We all have a level of hypocrisy in our life, but the sooner that we're able to admit it as a community and move on and not go so far as to start burning bridges by calling people names, like really vulgar names, and just, I mean, if you don't want to be friends with that person or just be associated with them, that's one thing. But to just be like really hateful and mean spirited, I think is a different level of what most flat earthers would perceive as like love and caring for another person. I guess I thought once people got to a particular level of enlightenment that you would care and have more empathy towards your fellow human being, but
Me
for
too.
most that still doesn't matter. So
I thought more people would wake up more and be nicer, but I suppose things take time, don't they?
well, it takes a lot of forgiveness and forgetting. You can't forgive and not forget. That's not the point. So I think that's very difficult for a lot of people. They hold grudges. They have a real serious trust problem. Most people are paranoid. They think everybody's a shill, and I just let people do that, and I do my own thing, right? I mean, I can only do what I do, and there's a particular time that I can do that, and then I'll be judged for how I go about my business and whether street activism and whether talking to the public and bringing this off of private platforms, which YouTube is, even though people want to complain about their lack of freedom of speech, you're not going to lose your freedom of speech if you go out in public. Okay, that's where it is. That's where you can really exercise your right to free speech is out in public, not on YouTube or Facebook. So that's, I guess, one thing that I'm getting kind of irritated about flat earthers is complaining about being censored on YouTube. And then you're going to change how you talk about flat earth. I mean, what is this like hoax topics again now? Are we going back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago about topics that we can or can't talk about? Clearly, they're just showing that they're censoring flat earth, whether they really are or not. They can show the numbers, but it's funny, you see the numbers on the YouTube views, sub counts, and so on. I was watching this movie yesterday. I've been into Lifetime movies for the last month or so. So all you people out there who know what Lifetime movies are, just that's how bored I've gotten. And judge me if you want, that's fine. On this particular movie last night that I watched, this college girl comes up with this dating app, and her and her friend are sitting around the table, kind of just like, okay, we have no subscribers. What are we going to do to get subscribers? And I thought, just buy 5,000 of them for $20 and there you go. You got 5,000 subscribers, right? Because, I mean, let's be real here. You can't trust the views and the sub counts and so on and the thumbs up and thumbs down that you see on YouTube. So if you can understand that, accept that for what it's worth, and then move on and then like not worry about it, then I think we have victory in that, content creators particularly. But if you do and you constantly complain about view counts and being censored and so on, you're letting them win. You're giving them credit and you're allowing them to even speak about it and be irritated by it. And I think that it would be beneficial for us, this coming up year to just not worry so much about being censored, even if we are, and not worry so much about what other people are doing in the community via mainstream, because I'm not on mainstream, right? Like I haven't gotten any major interviews or anything like that. And so I don't know what that's like. And I go about my business where if people are on mainstream and I don't particularly agree with how they're saying it, I look at it and I say, hey, you know what? At least flat Earth is being spoken about, and it's really not that egregious of conveyance by the sphere believers. It's still being left up in the open. It's still being talked about. Why is it being talked about? Why are you making a 2-hour or 90-minute documentary about something that is ludicrous? How many documentaries on YouTube can you look up Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny? Now, there's a lot of fun cartoons that involve those characters, like The Grinch with Jim Carrey. That's a Santa Claus spinoff, but it's not a documentary about Santa Claus. And any video that you do see that's documentary about Santa Claus, that it's just hoaxery, and because the way that they're delivering it is fake. But when you watch these documentaries on National Geographic, they're leaving it open for some of these stuffs to be plausible. But people in their own, the normies in their own worldview, they know in their heart, right? Like what their own worldview of what they've come up to and their conclusions, that can't be real. And even if it was, nobody would lie to me like that. So those are the barriers that we have. Nobody would lie to me like that, and why would they lie? So until people are able to realize that yes, they would lie, like go back to the cigarettes idea. How many decades did they lie about cigarettes and seatbelts? So I guess that's kind of just my 2 cents and about the documentary. Have you seen the documentary Behind the Curve?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, yeah. I guess I haven't heard your opinion about it.
But the medication, education, they've done it to everything, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
It is what channel is it that's made that? Discovery Channel, isn't it? No, what is it? Sorry, which is the one that? Oh my goodness, it's gone out of my brain. It's really bad on air. Who's it made by? Like with it, who did it? Forgotten now.
I don't.
Geographic.
National Geographic.
Well, them doing it, they're never going to put it across properly, are they?
They got to pick a side, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, what side are they going to choose? So
They just want to make us look stupid.
well, they can make people look stupid however they want, right? I mean, they can make it come off any way that they want to. Now, they're assuming that the majority of the public are just ignorant and not very bright, and won't look into this on their own time, and will just take the word from mainstream here and move on with their life and not ever get involved. So it will give them what mainstream people want to hear, and then they'll move on to something else, and it won't be that big of a deal until 6 months later, when you have some guy on the street corner telling you about it, and you're like, come on, man, you can't be real. Like, yep,
You have to
this
say,
is
where
really
have you been?
this is really happening.
Yeah,
And
I feel today though, like even though I've had a group or got Facebook or got this channel, it still boggles me how bad the lie is, because it's that bad. I just can't understand why you would want to do this to the people. And I think we're just an experiment, to be honest. I think like there's going to be people like you, there's going to be people who now are autistic and whatever, Asperger's, and then or ADHD, and then before that we had the thalidomide. I just think that we're just a great big game for them. Test it on the people.
yeah, and I've kind of thought that over the last few months here. that we're just this big giant, America is like this big giant experiment. I mean, think about it. The scientists that started NASA and Disney came from what in our history books tell us are Nazi war camps, where they were allegedly exterminating hundreds of thousands of people a year, right? Or a month by their numbers, right? However that's possible, I don't know. But if we were just to take that narrative and then, so you're going to have all of these people not be tried for murder against the human race, regardless of what they believe. Let's just say you're exterminating a lot of human beings for what we feel is really, um, egregious, and it's just awful. So we're going to hire you as our main scientists so that we can go to the moon. What? And create, the Disney side. Well, yeah, that is the outward aspect of mainstream. I mean, that's mainstream. So our parents in the 1960s and 70s allowed all of this to go on, knowing that the people who are creating these entities were previously murdering and testing things on human beings, allegedly. So if they're doing ultra MK mind control in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and then we bring them over here to America and we don't try them and execute them like they should have been for crimes against humanity and war crimes, we put them and hire them as scientists, and then we now have, as disclosed, MK Ultra and mind control projects, like television, for example. So we as what I have found, right, is that we're, yes, just this big giant experiment, but we are so much in Stockholm syndrome that it really scares a lot of people to change what we have, because at least we have, quote, structure right now. People can go home and go to their house and watch their TV and eat their food and just live comfortably. Whereas if, we were to kind of start to shake things up, then that's kind of chaos. And does the establishment have a plan for what's going to happen? Well, they might, but do we, like as a community of people, or truthers or whatever? So, yeah, I mean, there really isn't too much of an organization of, what could we do if all heck broke loose? Um, because this is still America and it is still owned by the Queen, and we would have to find our own land and fight off the invaders of our land. And from what history books tell us, America was easily taken over, and with you know sickness and illness and whatnot. So if anything, in the future, I think a lot of things that are going to happen aren't maybe going to be so financially based as health-wise based. Like a major sickness or a epidemic or a plague or something like that. So, because then you can blame it on something else, right? You're not necessarily blaming financial collapse on the stock market, and then you say, well, we just get rid of the stock market and then everything will be okay, and we move to Bitcoin. Whereas if you were to blame it on, some kind of a plague or a vaccine or something like that, then you're not going to get rid of vaccines. You're just going to get rid of the people who are sick. So,
well, there's loads of us, isn't there? So it doesn't really matter. There's loads of them, us to do it to. There'll always be someone else.
right. And all those people would depend on the state, right? Um, there would be the majority of the population would depend on the state to make them healthy and give them the proper vaccine or whatever it is that would, cure them. And so then you have all these dependents, and what if they start, saying, okay, if you want if you want the vaccine to make you and your family healthy, do you have any guns? Do you own any guns? Well, if you do, then you have to hand in your guns to get this vaccine, you know? So like these red flag laws that are coming out right now, which are, you know, more predominantly noticeable in the South, where allegedly they have more people own more guns. But I just, you know, I mean, they've covered their bases. They have all of the different narratives kind of covered: alien invasion, plague, financial collapse, artificial intelligent robots, and so on and so on. So what really we as a community have to do is kind of step up our game this next year and kind of just, I guess, see what happens and not worry so much about being censored. And don't, I just wish that people just wouldn't complain about it so much, because you're not going to have these types of ideas promoted by mainstream, but you're going to have things like guys showing women how to put on makeup. That stuff is going to be promoted. You know, that's the society that we've allowed right now, is where you're getting more views. Some of the more trendy views are videos where guys are teaching women how to put makeup on. Like, what kind of bizarro world is that?
It should be what women putting the makeup on, or just, well,
A little bit of makeup, not too much. Not too much. So,
mm.
yeah, I still can't get
Anyway, Josh,
on YouTube, the
how,
watch page. So,
how just asking, because obviously we know that you're not particularly well and stuff, or you're recovering. How much longer do you want to go on this hangout?
yeah, it's up to you. I can go on for, you know, a little bit, unless you have something to do. You know.
No, we'll stay for a little bit longer. You know, you're not very well, then it takes a lot out of you, a hangout. It does.
Yeah, I got some plans with some people here later on, and we're gonna watch a movie and uh, you know, venture out into the cloudy weather. But it's been, you know, I guess just overall my thoughts is that, you know, it's still a tough hill to climb. There's still a long ways to go, but I think that we are. I mean, flat Earth is just an unbelievable topic to kind of venture in on and have a conversation about with people who are capable of having a conversation and not take offense, you know. And it's good to see like people like Nathan Oakley who are more consistent with talking about it and being just stern when things kind of get out of control too, and not taking any guff from a lot of these people who believe in the globe still. Uh, I think that it is interesting to see all the same globe people for the last 3 or 4 years continue to hang that flag on their car, and it kind of just makes me understand more that this is a battle, you know. Go ahead.
Hmm. No, I was listening to you. So I know it's
Oh
always
yeah.
it's a battle for us anyway, because it's sort of, well, I don't think we're really in the minority. I mean, a lot of the native cultures haven't believed anything different. It's only what we call the Western world, America, the UK. When you add up that amount of people, we're probably the minority. But in that minority, the majority of those aren't there yet, are they?
Yeah, and we have to accept that a lot of them won't be, particularly friends and family. For a lot of people, those are going to be your toughest critics. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people are what you would consider closet flat earthers, where they might even not believe that they live on a ball in outer space anymore, but they're not going to talk about it. And maybe they're even just curious about flat earth and, you know, looking into it. I mean, just even looking into it can be offensive to the normies out there. So I just
Do
leave
you find
that.
it a bit? You've got those that have woken up, so they might think that space isn't real, and then they think, well, the vaccination bit's a lie. And then when you turn around and talk about flat Earth, they, oh, what do you want? I don't understand. If they've understood all those things are a lie, why can't they realise that It's happening on everything or other things.
The lie is too big, really. I think that that's too big of truth for a lot of people to handle. We're only given as much as we can handle. So, for whatever reason, I ended up contracting the flu, however that happened, probably through chemtrails, right? I mean, let's be real here. And if you're not able to handle that spoonful of truth, I really think that you're not going to hear it, A, or B, when you do hear it, you go into complete denial mode and defend people that you've never met before and claim that we've done things that you can't reproduce yourself. And when people get to that point of, claiming, well, if I was to say to somebody, did you know that NASA and these people who study space are saying that Saturn's rings are disappearing? They would be like, come on, nuh-uh. Right? I mean, that's how up to date these people are with, their own philosophy of outer space. Did you know that Jupiter has rings? Nuh-uh. And it's like, you can convey all these different, little quips and whatnot that mainstream science puts out, like the moon being in Earth's atmosphere now. But what it really comes down to is water always lays level. That's what it always has to come back to. You can argue about constellations, the Southern Cross, star projections in the southern hemisphere, eclipses, and so on and so on. That's all well and fine. But what about water laying level and always laying level when not moving? So if water's flat,
I think it's incredible how they've managed to do this, where the people aren't thinking at all.
gravity, man, you know?
And
Um,
bendy water.
what a magic trick. I mean, that is really a magic trick, and that is hypnosis on a level that I don't think has been conveyed here on Earth. Such a lie that gravity could trump all these other rational and logical decisions about and conclusions about where we live. But when you add in this idea of gravity, it just really trumps everything. And if anything, if you are going to do any kind of activism, you can say what you want. But I always end up saying water lays level and it's always flat. And when it's not moving and it's stagnant, it goes on forever, flat and level. And so if water is flat and level, that means that if we were to venture out, we would find more land. Why can't they just turn a camera around just for fun and show an airplane flying upside down? From one of these satellites that we have allegedly out so far in space. Because they're not. Why aren't they able to give us a clear 4K resolution photograph, like not an image, of where all the moon landing stuff is at right now? The lunar lander is still there on the moon, but all we get are pixelated pictures.
What you mean, the footage they lost? Haha.
Well, I mean, there's that, but I mean, the stuff that they left behind from the first moon landing, it's still on the moon right now. The flag and everything, but all we get are grainy, pixelated. What is that? Unless you were told what it is, you would have no idea how to formulate an idea of what that is.
Because it's not really there.
So if people, in this community, just have patience with others, I think it'll go a long way in conveying the seriousness about this idea, and then we'll just see how mainstream media goes about with their what is it called? where they just try to come in with their explanations about different things and try to explain things away of how something can't work on flat Earth. And it's old, I mean, if people are swayed by such simple elementary school hypnosis as mainstream science is able to give to pass away flat Earth, then no offense, but you deserve to be deceived. Then,
Mind you, though, I've I remember going somewhere. It was about voting, but I was going to spoil my ballot paper, and I filmed it, but it didn't, for some reason, didn't record it. Didn't keep it. But I went in there because I was going to spoil my ballot, and I just said to her, I want to vote, but I don't want to vote for any of these. And I said, why isn't there a box to say I can vote? And I've said, yes, I'm voting, but not for them. And this girl said, oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that, and that's the way we are. That's the society is, because we don't need to think now, do we? We just get our phones or iPads and we believe that crap on there. Well, sometimes it's right. Maybe a lot of the time it's right, but they're lying.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I just can't believe it is bad.
That's the idea. If they're the first ones to come out with either a story topic, an idea, or whatever, they're able to kind of try to control the narrative of it. So if they give you multiple choice about something that has really no choice and you're free to choose whatever you want, you feel in your heart compelled to only pick one of the four options. You won't ever look outside of those options because you weren't taught any different. We're not taught in public education to critically think. We have to have somebody tell us what is true and what is hilariously not true, and how they believed it in such an ancient time. Whereas the people hundreds and maybe even thousands of years ago were so intelligent that they figured out what was going on, and the powers that should not be have found a way to control that and turn us into slaves over a period of time. I mean, I'm just telling you, it goes back to,
About turning into slaves, but forgetting to tell them that that's what you've done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you just kind of allow people to they're choosing basically, but they never are given that feeling that they can choose something different, because there's so much how do I say, like, there's so much policing that goes along with our society right now, where if somebody does stray away from the herd, uh, they're mocked and ridiculed, or they're black sheeped, and hopefully that brings them back into the fold, So, or they're at such a level of prestige or whatever where they can't talk about it, which is why a lot of these people in the educational system right now who are probably flat earthers can't talk about this topic because they'll lose their job.
Yeah, because I think, as well, it's all covering up free energy as well, isn't it?
More land, how to understand the air and turn it into electricity, and everybody has free electricity all the time where it's not monitored. And that's why the idea is moved to where we're at right now, is because they're able to charge people electricity because it's metered. Whereas anybody who has a real conscience, in my opinion, who has more of a good faith towards man, would create a way to give everyone free energy. So, like, you could run all of your, home electronics at home for free, and it'd be wireless internet. That's allegedly what people had in the past. And, I heard somebody say something to the effect that the previous civilizations, that, the Tartarians or the Atlanteans or whatever, that was the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And so now we're in a period of time where the enemy is running the earth right now, and we have to wait for the final conclusion between good and evil. And the deception is so grand that nobody would believe it. And that goes back to a really good popular saying is if you tell a lie
That's
often and loud
the,
enough, people will start to believe it.
the deception's so big that nobody believes it. That's it, isn't it? That's part of it.
Yeah, it's so massive that nobody, as a normie, anyways, that hasn't looked into such topics in the first place, could never conclude that anybody would ever be that evil to everyone, whereas they would lie to them about where they live. Like that they think that that's some kind of an objective truth that everybody knows. Like everybody knows that the sky is blue, right? When not covered in chemtrails. But the sky is blue from our perception here on Earth as a human being, right? Like that is something every single human being, no matter what kind of language, if you could figure out a way to convey what color is that up above you, and they would say blue. Uh, People, the normies, think that that is much truth as us living on a ball in outer space. So that is the largest religion that you're dealing with right now on Earth is people in the Western world that have formal public education are taught that we live in a particular place that we don't. That is a massive lie. That's you're that's wrong. I mean, that is wrong to tell people that. And then to tell people that we've landed on that light in the sky at midnight, we've landed human beings on that.
Absolutely. When it's all fake, it's just disgusting.
That's a religion, and that's the largest religion that we're dealing with because you can be Catholic, Mormon, or Muslim, and you can still believe we live on a spinning ball in outer space. So that's what we're up against, and I'm ready to take it on. We got to take on the world somehow and do it in our own little way, and we still live our own little personal life. But when it comes to talking about flat Earth, I think as a community we can agree that this is getting to be more and more important because they are upping their mockery and ridicule about it, And just to kind of, I don't even talked about this, but that whole, gosh, I don't even know his name. That comedian everybody's talking about. That's how much I really care. And how another comedian in this community is saying that he's just like a handoff to him or something like that. And I think it's like Benjamin or whatever, but I haven't really looked at him because I don't care. Because until he does 2 or 3 hours of street activism, who the hell is he, right? All that he's doing is just some character on YouTube, So go out with Marilyn, go out with the guys in Chicago, or come out here in Minneapolis, Benjamin, for 2 or 3 hours, and let's walk around the university and talk about flat Earth, or ask them
Yeah,
questions, right? Say, hey, I'm not a flat earther, but why is this or why doesn't this happen, right?
make some more friends.
Just get it, yeah, introduce.
Make more friends. Be out in the community.
Yeah. What do you think about that with, when a celebrity talks about flat Earth, people make videos about it? Is it a big deal, or what do you think?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like when a celebrity talks about flat Earth on mainstream, somebody makes a video about it and says, "Oh, so and so mentioned flat Earth in their interview." Like, what do you think about that?
God, if they actually do mention it, it's amazing.
Hmm.
like the one subject that's being sort of, I don't know, when I was at college, we had to learn all these different systems, even ones that never, you know, that we just don't use anymore. Well, if they're not to talk about, you put, and I'm not saying this is everybody's thing, but what is the threat of a concave or convex or square or round? What is the threat so badly that they can't allow it in?
I don't
And the
know.
other thing is the free energy thing. I think if that really gets out about free energy, because don't
Mm,
forget, we understand even, you know, about the energy in the air, but millions. I didn't until flat Earth, but millions don't.
hmm Yeah, I didn't know either, and I didn't know about a lot of things, but there's a lot of people out there that have their own lives right now, and they're so consumed with their family and kids going to school and everything, where we only, it seems like, have a short period of time, and that's probably between, you know, probably late, early, let's say May to August. I mean, and that's just my estimation. I'm just saying that because that's the summertime. That's when here in America, anyways, people are just in better spirits. They're not, they don't, they're, most aren't going to school. Yeah, they're still going to work, but it's not wintertime work. People get done with work now and they go home and watch TV or sports or play video games mostly. I mean, I'm talking about the normies. So when the summertime comes out, that's a great opportunity to go out in public with three or four of your friends and do some activism and talk about these things. Because I think that there has to be some more incorporation with flat Earth and free energy, chemtrails, and maybe even 5G and vaccines. I mean, I know that vaccines are even more controversial because I don't have children, so I don't understand. I can see from outside the box the controversy and the uh, conversations that go on with the vaccine idea, but the geoengineering, that's class. I mean, that's out in public. I mean, they talk about that on mainstream. So we could most definitely incorporate that conversation along with free energy, with flat Earth, and um, just really start to up the ante. That it's not just about some crazy, conspiracy about falling off the edge. It really has to do about protecting the human race. And obviously, there seems to be some kind of a agenda to get rid of us all, or keep us at a number that's more malleable and easily contained. I mean, because even if you go by like mainstream's idea of evolution, the human beings that we see here now in the mirror, we're like 30 to 40,000 years old, right? How is it that we only have 7.5 billion people on Earth right now? And that's even assuming that that number is correct. I mean, you're gonna that number is correct, or where are they getting the census? I didn't do a census for them to get that number. So how is it that there's not more people on Earth? I mean, even just in the last 2,000 years, there should be an enormous amount of people. But if you look at the history books within the last 250 years, it shows like a steady incline. So that's just assuming that their numbers are right, but I don't,
Yeah,
believe
like
on that.
China, you only had to have one child, and now it means that there's loads of male children without any wives and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that could be a particular agenda there also. That's like when, the stories in the prison system, right? Where you're surrounded by so many guys for so long. I mean, geez, I guess, that happens, right? So if if you're having a bunch of males being born in a country, well, over a period of time, you're just going to have a bunch of guys hanging out with each other, and then what's going to happen then? What's going to happen to the human race or your particular color of skin? Well, you're not going to be around for very long, and I think that along with abortion, which is a touchy subject, and vaccines, there is some kind of an agenda to reduce the population. Now, whether you want to go along with the Georgia Guidestones or not, and that whole depopulation idea, you can certainly have at it, but I still think that a slow kill is their best interest right now, and then maybe at some point in the future they do kind of do a reset. But what is that going to look like? You know, I mean, I don't really know. So can all speculate, which is fun, but I think that I'll just still go back to keep doing what you're doing, but each day that you wake up, the next day, try to press in a little bit more, and I think that we'll all
I think if
kind
we all
of.
start having a slightly different consciousness, it should hopefully start changing things, shouldn't it? But there's still a lot of narcissistic people. I don't know. I just think there's three types of people. There's the globe people, then there's those that think they're flat earthers, and then there's the flat earthers. That's the way I feel after, what is it, 2-3 years in flat earth?
Mm.
Because those that think they are still narcissistic. And like you say, those are the ones that are having a go at everybody else, telling everybody else how to be, but thinking they're a flat earther. They haven't got there yet. Because being a flat earther is about your whole persona's changed. How you know, you welcome people, you're nice to people, you want to help, want to talk. It's not like the way there's other people do and they're just moaning and groaning and making videos about everybody all the time.
Yeah, well, I think that the videos that people make about others on YouTube are no different than Donald Trump calling people out in the political system, whether it be reporters, fake news, or other politicians like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, you still have all of their drama, so the normies can come into Flat Earth and hear about Flat Earth and venture into it for a week and see all the different characters that are involved in it and get involved or listen in the background, or they could choose not to because there's drama. Well, unfortunately, I'm not there to uh, convey that message and ask them, well, do you watch sports? Sports has its own drama. Politicians, they have their own drama. Oh, celebrities? Well, what about TMZ? So every little niche that each person enjoys has drama because you have human beings. You have drama in your own house and at your workplace. You might not be aware of it because you're just not, privy to it at the moment, but there is drama bubbling up behind your back that you don't know about that will be brought up soon enough. And there you have it, like somebody's hiding something from you or somebody's doing something behind your back and now you have drama. So I think people are picking and choosing what is important to them and what kind of drama and topics that they want to be a part of. And again, like you've said, some people just aren't. I can't believe that people aren't woken up to it. Yes, for sure, but um, everybody has their own importance, what they find important to them, and flat Earth is just kind of one of those things that they'll just put on their shelf as anything else that they know and move on.
Yeah, but it's hard for us. None of us have moved on, have we?
I
Not
know,
in
right?
Yeah, not in the flat earth bit about helping, learning, understanding the whole thing. It's just massive, this thing.
Well, I've said this for a while, and I think it makes even more sense now. Sooner or later, there's going to be um, either the establishment is going to come out and say that the Earth is flat and give all these proofs that it is and debunk what people thought the globe Earth idea was, or they say, okay, this whole flat Earth thing, this is enough. You guys need to stop getting together, and this is a crime now. You're going to get fined or put in jail for spreading this
Well,
nonsense.
It's a crime what they've done.
So
It's the other way round, isn't it? It's a crime what they've done to us.
yeah, yeah, it really is, and we'll find out, if it does get to a point where there is a group of people who are flat earthers who want to do some activism at a place that would be more controversial than another place, and the risk of being arrested comes up. How many people are willing to be arrested for flat Earth and for the lies that have been told to us? Do you believe in flat Earth enough? Do you believe that we really haven't been to space and that we don't live on a ball to go to jail for it? Or, is this just a community for you and like, a club, if you will, and it's no different than anything else, and don't take it so seriously. So,
Yeah, it is a bit serious though, isn't it? When it is just so bad, really. It's nothing more than serious. It's just, I suppose individually we can't do anything. Only as a whole we'll be able to do it. But it is serious.
how many of the guests that you have on are flat earthers?
Nearly all of them.
Okay.
The only ones that aren't we've had is Brian Forrester, but he doesn't mind. He's into pyramids and elongated skulls, but he doesn't mind coming on our channel, so that's great. Marie Wheatley, she is an archaeologist, but again, they're holding keys and they're prepared to come on our channel, and she's becoming a friend. So yeah, so that's 2 people. I think practically everybody else is a flat earther.
Mm-hmm.
Except we had Mr. Thrive and Survive. We did a globe versus flat Earth. 1 or 2, 2 people there aren't, and he comes on occasionally. But he does understand that most, he's a cross between a flat earther and a globe head, because a globe person, it doesn't all work on the globe, but he can't quite go to a flat Earth yet. but he's a nice man. So that's 4. That's 4, I think. But we've got to come together as well, haven't we? And it's okay these people come to our channel as long as we can get on, and most of these people have got something to offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've felt, and I haven't gotten this verbatim, so I'm just shooting out the mouth, and I guess that's what I do best. I would assume that some of the people who are globe believers don't want to talk to a flat earther because it's just too ridiculous. Like, why would they even give the time of day to even talk about it? And maybe there's a part of them that doesn't want to be convinced that something is up and not right about this place, so they don't even get into a conversation because of that. But I think a majority of the people who have heard about flat Earth and the flat earthers and look at them, or maybe even look at what they've seen on mainstream, think that flat earthers are just morons and won't ever be flat Earth, and that's fine. But you have to expect some criticism and some name calling and for your feelings to be hurt if you do go public about flat Earth. Then if talking about flat Earth on a public forum like YouTube or Facebook uh, isn't something that you're about, then and you just enjoy your life, then live your life. That's great. But as for me and my house, I'm gonna go out and talk about flat Earth and everything else that's wrong with this place, and hang on to what I know about my own personal convictions, and not worry about you know what may or may not happen to me, or um, you know what happens to me or anything like that. I can't be concerned about who's going to be friends with me and who's not, or anything like that, because there certainly is that if you go out in public and talk about stuff like this. So the whether they're agents or just people who are so irritated with you going out in public talking about this, and want to, intimidate you. So some people aren't ready for that, and that's fine. I am, I guess, and I'll do street activism with anybody else who's ready for it too. So
Oh, Josh.
wish I could
Yeah.
go out to the UK and do some stuff with
Yeah.
Harry
Come
and
to London,
Roxanne.
where
I
the
know,
street
right?
painted gold.
But then again, Marilyn and Steve and there are people out there that are doing activism here in the States too. So, definitely should try to hook up with them sometime this year. And
Don't we? I mean, you do your bit, I do my bit. That's what makes it good, because we're not all
yeah,
doing the same. That's what we're complaining about. In the globe world, everybody's doing the same things.
yeah, right, exactly. And everybody in the globe world all look
They
out for each other.
like when you go in the army, the whole point is to break down you as an individual to make you part of a team. That's kind of sort of what they've done. They want you in the team of slaves, and we're breaking out to being individuals.
Yeah. Yep, we're breaking away from the collective. So, you know,
Yeah.
yep, be your own individual. And it can be hard to be your own individual, nowadays. I mean, in regards to, maybe even flat Earth in the future will just be trendy, and you'll just have a bunch of people who say they're flat Earth, but don't even, come up with their own proofs. You know what I mean? Like, why do you believe the Earth is flat? Well, just because it is. Okay, because it is. Well,
Because it just is. It is.
yeah. So,
Mm.
well, I really
Yeah,
appreciate the time for, to be on. And
now, Josh, we've been going for about 2 hours. In fact, you people don't know, but Josh was on probably nearly half an hour before we went live that we were
uh,
having a chat.
the
So
background, uncut scenes.
yeah, I should have videoed that bit then, shouldn't I, Josh?
Yeah. So, well, I really appreciate everybody in the chat. I haven't been able to get the YouTubes up. It's just a white screen with all the boxes.
They've been listening to you. But Josh, we wish you well and hope that you feel better soon. If you're only at 40%, you said. So we hope that you feel better very, very soon. And I'm just, yeah, that's all we can say, really, isn't it? Eat
Yeah,
lots of,
thanks.
eat lots of fruit.
I ate so much fruit. That's one thing I'm gonna miss from the hospital is all the free food and being waited on hand and foot. It's like I would have done some of the things that I was asking them to do, but I was in isolation, and you kind of get to a point where you just want to be left alone and get your own food and make it yourself. But there's a level of patience that has to be brought with other people providing you with
When
care.
I was in
And
hospital, I always thought the salads were okay and the roasties were okay, but anything else was disgusting. And the cakes had like 3 years date on them. So these little cakes are like 3 years in advance. You're thinking, that isn't real then, is it? If you can make it last 3 years.
well, I will say that my stay, if the food came in a reasonable amount of time after I had ordered it, it was actually really good. So I don't have much negative to say about the food that I got. Um, that's why I went there in the first place, because I knew that there's a level of care that is provided that can't be given here at home, and I can't, base all of my health decisions on other alternatives, because cystic fibrosis is just a level of health and care that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And, I really don't mean to sound like a Richard here, but, you
Autism and
know,
stuff, haven't they? Like,
yeah, you broke up
you know,
quite a bit.
ADHD and autism people talk about, not the thing that you've got, Josh.
Well, I really do appreciate the comments and people offering their advice about alternative ways to take care of the human body, but until you've looked at cystic fibrosis and you don't assume that CF is the same as anything else that would be cured with, putting onions on your feet overnight, then I will consider what a person has to offer health wise. But I think a lot of people just hear that I have an illness and then they say, here, take colloidal silver and that'll be the end all to be all, your cure. I think that there's more to it than that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've taken colloidal silver and I haven't felt like 100% better. My lung functions didn't go up. The mucus in my lungs wasn't cleared up. So I still had CF symptoms. And I just ask that if somebody's going to offer me advice, look up what cystic fibrosis is. Look at the pictures of people that have died from, the flu or pneumonia at their lungs. And their lungs look like this green goop, as if this person who died suffocated in their own fluid. And I don't think a lot of people look at what CF really is and they just offer their advice, which I appreciate. I'm not saying that I don't like hearing what people have to offer, because I can look into it myself then. But that's all I'm saying, is just look into what CF is, because I mean, a lot of people don't even know what cystic fibrosis is, but then they'll tell me to, take turmeric, turmeric, and it's like, okay, well, what is that going to, do? So I think if we just understand each other and what we're going through, and understand that there isn't going to be like this end all to be all cure, and maybe just accept that there won't be any way to reverse a particular ailment, then it's your own thoughts and how you think of your own mortality, I guess, and how you and kind of, are you depressed? Are you uplifted or whatever? And do I really need to take this external food or these supplements or whatever to be healthy? Because people swear by their particular diet, and that's great and everything. But when did a diet become, and what you put into your body, become such a vulgar way to convey a message to somebody? I mean, so I guess that's, my how I've kind of, what I've experienced from people over the last month or so is, I do see a lot of people care, and people do care, and they want to offer some support, and I appreciate it.
I felt like, because I said, I was thinking, Josh, why isn't he answering me? And then, of course, saw your channel and what happened to you. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
But
sorry about that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh, but we'll keep in touch with you anyway and see how you're doing. But people in the chat room are wishing you well, including Marilyn.
Yeah, I wish you all well too. I'm sorry, took a AFK, but
Glad that you're here and getting better.
and we're here. And I was gonna do kind of an update on my channel and just say I was out of the hospital and everything, but I knew you and I had talked, and I just figured I'd wait until now to just talk about that.
You mean you can upload this video because it explains it all?
Yeah, and
Yeah, go for it, Josh.
really appreciate everybody out there, and just keep doing what you're doing. And
Oh, gosh, I'm not sure if Patricia's there. Are you there, Patricia? And
I am. I'm here.
yeah, we're going to end the hangout now. So poor Josh. Everybody give Josh a hug now.
I'll give you all a hug.
We're sending you virtual hugs, Josh.
Hugs, everybody. Thanks a lot for the time. Thanks, Patricia.
Yeah, Josh, I just want to say I love you.
I love you too, Patricia. Thanks so much.
Oh, I love you both. And the chat.
Yeah, I love you all out there, and just it's time to kick it up a notch. I mean, how many flat earth seniors do we got out there in the class? You're the teachers now, so.
Yeah, you have to just make sure that you get better right now, Josh. And we love you lots and wish you the best. And we will keep in touch, and we will be talking to you shortly, I am sure.
I'm sure about it. Love you all. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for sharing that time today, because obviously you said that you weren't feeling brilliant anyway, but thank you for that, Josh. Mwah. Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you, Josh. You take care of yourself. Love everyone.
Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
we're back
Take care.
tomorrow with Josh X. So see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Josh. Take care.